So today, thank you for joining us for Songwriters Camp this week. We're going to talk about your newest single, which came out October 15th.
Yeah.
So how has it been? How has the response been so far?
The response has been so incredible because, you know, as a musician, you're just putting a little piece of your heart into the world. And I was really grateful that I got to a place where it didn't have to mean anything about me, how people took it and how people responded to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that people felt it was so palpable to me that this little piece of vulnerability that I put out into the world was really doing its job. It was like I planted a little seed and gave it a task, and it was doing it, and people were really feeling it, and people saying like, oh, I'm in a situation that reminds me of this right now, and I want to send it to the person I'm having this experience with. And also the different ways people found themselves in the story was so interesting to me. And I just felt, honestly, so much gratitude.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I read that you wrote this in 2016. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what made now the perfect time to release it?
Well, it took time. You know, I was writing a ton of music at that time, and I was performing a lot. And my intention always was to write an album and get it out into the world. And I also recognized that there were a lot of just old stories that I had, a lot of old fear around what it would mean to put the thing that I care the most about in the world out. And once I recognized those blocks, everything really happened, like, whew. And I found a producer, and it was all really lining up. And so I started creating this album March of 2020. Haha. Obviously not realizing that we were diving into the pandemic. But we managed to get it done. We managed 12 songs recorded, and then it took time to sort of get all the ducks in a row to release it. And really the main holdup from 2016 to March 2020 was just working through the emotional blocks that I had and the fear that I had. And so now I'm so grateful that it took as long as it did, because I feel really grounded and settled in myself, and like I'm not any of it personally, like nor the positivity or any, you know, people don't like it, they don't like it, that's okay.
As long as you like the final product, that's all that matters, and you love it enough to put it out there, that's great.
I do. I love this song. I love the way it turned out. For a long time, it was just me and a guitar. So to get into the studio with other incredibly talented musicians and see what magic could come from it was so incredible. And like we had a theremin on this track, which was so amazing. And it's all been really exciting.
So what made this song the one that you wanted to put out as a single?
I think it's like a beautiful flag bearer for the rest of the album. There's a depth of emotion in it, and that's what I really want to bring forward with my music. And also just musically, the way it all unfolds, so that it doesn't feel like there's too many instruments. It doesn't feel overproduced, but there's a intricacy to the way all the instruments work together to create like a bath of sound. And I just felt like this song really strongly was like a good indication for the album.
And then how did the music video come to be?
The music video. So I knew these girls, Nicola and Juliana Giraffe, and they are just two of the most unbelievably talented artists I've ever met. They're prolific. They both are visual artists. They're both mimes. They're sisters. Juliana is also a musician. They just made their first short film that they're getting ready to premiere. And I just knew that they would handle it so lovingly. and
Mm-hmm.
that their vision and the way they see the world is so magical and has such a surrealist energy to it. And they were the only ones I wanted to do this music video with. And so I was at a dinner with them, and I just brought forward this idea of like my hair growing and encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, holding me, but also kind of like overwhelming me.
Mm-hmm.
And how that kind of, and there was a real vulnerability in shooting it and being the only one in the video and having it be so close up on my face. There were so many insecurities and vulnerabilities, and there was something about the rawness of that came forward for me that echoed the vulnerability of what I felt when I wrote that song.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, there was this feeling of like, I'm a 30-year-old woman who's learning to love her body and love herself after years of just being so cruel to myself, my inner narrative. And so there was a part of it that was a little bit like, yeah, we're gonna create this fantasy world, and it's gonna be like, this is where I was when I wrote the song, and at the same time, like, this is where I'm at now. Someone who's learning to be brave enough to be that vulnerable and share themselves in the hopes that someone else might see that and be like, wow, if she can do that, I can too. And so that was really a powerful driving force behind the video. And I have a love of Greek mythology. I have a love of like fables and storytelling. And I have a tapestry in my house of the Greek myth Leda and the Swan. And so that was another big piece to the puzzle that we had in the video.
That's awesome. And when you perform these songs live, when that happens, are you excited to just show, like, bare it all basically on stage? And did you have that in mind when you were recording?
Absolutely. I love performing. I really love being on stage. I love the energy of being with a crowd and that like there's such a co-caretaking experience. Because I'm giving something to them. I'm giving like showing my love, and they're returning, and it's so beautiful. And for a really long time, as I said, it was just me and a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And really excited about following the album release is getting together with a band and recreating some of the elements of the album and bringing in some of the instrumentation, and also once again creating something completely new for a stage show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited. We're getting that all together now. We have a few shows in the mix coming up, and I'm so excited to play live again. And just like, I feel like it's been so long since I got to do that. So I'm stoked.
Do you have a favorite song off the album?
No, it's like different days. Of course, as an artist, there's days where I'm like, oh my God, is that one like garbage now? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That going back and forth, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to spend so much time with them. And it's like different days, different ones are my favorite.
How did you know that it was finished though? Because like you said, I mean, you started writing this in 2016 and the journey of it. How do you know when it's done?
The truth is, it's never done. I could have gone back and rewritten and re-recorded and changed and managed these songs for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's really nice about working with other people, is the support of someone to be like, babe, one day they have to come out. And that I can always re-record them. I can always do more and write more, and that this is just where I'm a snapshot of where I'm at in my musical career right now. And so I feel like at some point you can stay, as my friend called it, like in the shed with your art forever. And there's a point where you just feel called to step forward into the world, no matter how scary that is and how tender you feel about it, because the purpose is, for me, is to share. And so at some point they just got to be done.
Do you have songs that didn't make it onto the album?
There were There was one song, maybe two songs that just right in the beginning of recording, they weren't, we couldn't quite figure it out. And I just thought, you
Mhm.
know what? Let's pause on that. Let's keep moving. And I love the number 11. So it's my mom's birthday. It's one of my lucky numbers. So I was like, 11 songs on the album, like, mwah, chef's kiss. That's perfect.
And what made you want to do this first solo album? Because I know you put out an EP, correct, with a friend
Yes.
before. So what made you want to go solo and just
And the solo thing, Gus and he's still one of my friends, and I absolutely would make music with him at another point. But he got a job. I also then was like, I need a real job. I had this idea that I shouldn't follow this thing that was the calling of my heart maybe because it came so easily to me.
Mhm.
And so I really postponed it for years, but then I kept getting these signs that I just had to come back to music. I had to come back to music. And music and songwriting is the thing that even if no one liked what I did, I would be doing it regardless because it's how I express myself. It's how I process things. Like nothing makes me feel more connected, more grounded than that moment when a song is just coming in and I'm like, yes, I feel it. I feel when it's one that I know is going to be good and I just fall in love with each of them. It's it's also a way that I know how to take the things that I've worked through in my life, experiences I've had that have been really challenging, but that have ultimately helped me grow, and how I can share that in the world. Because the music that's meant the most to me is something that makes me feel less alone. I
Mhm.
hear myself in it and I hear my own story in it, and I think, wow, if someone else experienced this, then I'm not alone in it. And so there's a real like purpose behind what I want, what I want to express into the world. And if almost no one liked it, and there was one person who was like, I really feel seen by this, then that's fine.
Mhm. And is there one song or album in particular to you that you find yourself going back to and feel that?
Hmm. There's a lot of nostalgic. Let's see, of course, they all like leave my head. So in winter, when it's like kind of gray and rainy, there's a certain playlist, and there's always this one Rolling Stone song called "Play with Fire." There's a few Andrew Bird songs. There's some Laura Marling songs um, that they all serve to make something that could be really depressing and dreary, and they transform it into something that's like a bit more artful and beautiful.
Mhm.
And it's a way that I can engage with my life, heavier feelings up, and not be dragged down by them. And so that always really just makes me feel really connected and in the flow of life.
When did you realize that the music thing was the route you were gonna go?
I think it was when I started playing music with Gus. I was in college. I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do. And we started writing music together. And I was like, oh, like maybe this is something I can do.
Mhm.
Maybe this is a path forward for me. And there were so many times where I doubted it and I waffled. I worked for fashion designers, I did interior design, I had my own fashion line for a minute. I think I was trying to try everything I could to avoid
Mhm.
this in a way. And I kept coming back to it, and I was like, and it could change in the future. There's like so many
Mhm.
things I want to do, but for now, like this is the calling of my heart that I keep coming back to.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
I do. Well, when I was little, I wrote a lot, but when Gus and I stopped making music together, and I started teaching myself guitar, I was reading a book about the poet Edna St. Vincent Millay.
Mhm.
Her poems in it that I just thought was so beautiful. And so actually I took those words and I wrote a little song around them. And at that point it literally was like C, and then I had to my fingers up and go, and like, and I had to try out every chord I knew to be like, what is the one I want?
Hmm.
I wrote this very halting little tune around this poem, and that really for me was like the first song that on guitar and lyrically, like I, you know, how I was expressing. And then I wrote one or two after that, but one of the other songs on the album that's the oldest is a track called Little Wolf. And that feels like the first full song that I wrote that I was like, ooh, this is good. This feels like it's got some juice in it.
Yeah. And I know that like the album hasn't come out yet, but are you still like looking towards the future? Like, are you still thinking about how your life experiences now could make a song when
Oh,
they're happening?
100%. I have already been writing some new music, and that's the funny thing about the process of making an album. You know, by the time the full album comes out, it'll be 2 years since I started recording it. And now I'm like, okay, new songs next. But I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to play these for a long time, so I better get nice and cozy with them.
Hmm.
But I'm so excited when I learn something new. It's like, ooh, can this be a song? How do I express this? And I realized a lot of the tracks from this album were from a certain amount of heartbreak or
Hmm.
insecurity or things, you know, that were a little painful that I was dealing with. And what would it look like to put my confidence in a song, to put my new awarenesses of myself in a way that's not cheesy,
Hmm.
like being in love and being in a really beautiful, healthy, co-caretaking, loving relationship. Like in the past, I would feel like maybe that wouldn't make for the best music. But there is one song about my partner on the album that I wrote as a gift to him. I was like, oh, you can write sort of a love song that's not doesn't feel cheesy to me. And so it's like a different prompts,
Hmm.
you know, like journal prompts or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, can I weave that in?
So listening to your album from start to finish, do you feel that it's like a journey?
100%. Even the way we order the songs,
Hmm.
you know, is like a definite journey through insecurity and heartbreak and hope and coming back to yourself and coming into resonance with a higher power, getting sober, and ultimately this feeling of just being a little more in trust with all the experiences that I've had. Because if I tried to tell the girl who was so heartbroken back in 2016, like, just hold on, babe, it's gonna all be worth it. You're gonna get through it. You know? It's like there's a line of energy that's reaching back. And when I think about that, it engenders so much trust. I have a limit on my time
Oh.
limit. Yeah, I think it is a journey. It's like through this whole cycle of action that I was living through.
Hmm. Do you think that'll change the way that you perform them live now because you are in a different place than you were in 2016?
Yeah, because I don't want it to be theatrical. I don't want to have to be like,
Mm.
I'm gonna like try and make myself cry in the dressing room. Been kind of interesting about that of what does it feel like to connect back with a lot of compassion to myself at that time and share that energy without needing to like drag myself back. And
Yeah.
how it is with when you're working through healing trauma, you don't want to re-traumatize yourself, but it's like, can you look back at the person you were at that point and like really hold
Hmm.
a lot of love in your heart?
Who do you think is your biggest inspiration when it comes to songwriting?
Mm, you know, musically, Patsy Cline has always been one of my biggest inspirations. Her and Roy Orbison, especially with the way they use their voices, because
Hmm.
it can be these really simple songs, but they use their voice and they use their melody as another instrument. And, you know, there are a lot of like older like 60s folk singers I'm very inspired by, you know, like I love the way Joan Baez uses her voice, but it's in like a totally different register than mine. But
Mm-hmm.
how to be inspired by that and Joni also, you know. But then it's like, you know, you have your Karen Daltons who it's like, oh, like so gravelly and deep underneath. And like, so there's something about the way people put themselves into their music and put their own unique spin. And something I love about the 50s and 60s is how often people cover the same songs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to see the different take that everyone put on it. I'm thinking about like the song Suzanne by Leonard Cohen. There's also Nina Simone version, and I heard her version first. And so it's so fascinating then to go back to the Leonard Cohen version and just see people's spirit and their experience. Mm-hmm. They are based on like how they perform this song. And I love that. And so the drive for me is like, who am I in this? I'm not trying to copy anyone's style. I'm not trying to be so referential that it sounds like a, you know, derivative. But how do I take different pieces of my influences to assemble something that's unique to me?
I love that. So do you still though, like, I don't know, because the popular music nowadays is like very pop focused. Do you take that into consideration, or you're just kind of like, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do, what feels natural to me?
Yeah, I mean, because music is such a personal mode of self-expression, I don't feel the need for it to be anything other than what it is. And at the same time, you know, being in the album, like being in the studio, making the album, there was a lot of creation happening, figuring out what my studio sound was, what it was with the band. And someone would ask me what the genre was, and I was like, I don't know. And, you know, there's pop music that I love. Mm-hmm. There's like, you know, when that Olivia Rodrigo album came out, I was like, I don't even know who Olivia Rodrigo is. And then I listened to it, like, I don't know if I love this. And like, tell me why I was listening to it for 24 hours non-being in my car, you know?
Yeah.
I just think it's whatever moves you. Even in a week later, you could be like, I'm over it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Whatever, like sparks something from you. And sometimes there's like 4 Sia songs that I go back to because I'm like, yes, these make me feel so strong and powerful. And it's like using music as like medicine for whatever you need at a specific moment to support you.
So what is on your current playlist?
What is on my current playlist? I've been just like letting my Apple Music go on shuffle. Because like sometimes I'll make really specific playlists for movies, and I have a fall one. There's a band called More that I love, More, and they are represented by the same manager as I am. So I've gotten to know these 2 guys, Malcolm and Kane, and I really love their music. There's something nostalgic about it, but very fresh. So that was on my playlist. I've been listening to Jonathan Richman a lot. What else? I've been making like sexy playlists to just like help me feel that like full fall energy. And Boots Are Made for Walkin' just been on repeat in my car, as well as the Screamin' Jay Hawkins version of I Put a Spell on You.
I love that.
Do something to me. Cover of Boots Are Made for Walking at some point, because I'm like, this song is so spicy.
I love that song, and it puts you in like a mood.
Oh, I know.
Sure.
Car, and I'm like, I am unstoppable. I am in my power. No one can touch me.
Exactly. So, lastly, how would you sum up your album in one word if you had to?
One word. Okay, let's see.
Or one sentence.
I mean, the word nurturing comes to mind. I'm not sure why, but I feel like that's really my intention in it, is to as like an offering of my love. That like when I think about, okay, what's my purpose with putting these out? It's it kept me company for so long through so many parts of my journey as I healed. And I just want them to keep other people company if I feel called to it or if they feel interested in it. I hope that they just like show my love to people and that people feel seen and witnessed and heard and loved, and that it could help open a dialogue within themselves or within people they're in relationship to.
Mhm.
Um, that's a lot more than one sentence, but
No, but you summed it up in one word, nurturing,
yeah.
and all the meaning behind that. And I'm sure I like you said, the response to the first song was already leaning into that. So
Uh,
excited to see everyone else's reactions to the rest of the album.
I'm so excited to share the rest of the album. I'm like chomping at the bit.
Yeah, how is it like the in between where you like have it done, you're finished, but like the anticipation?
I feel like there was a ripping off of the band-aid with this first one, where there was so much built up energy behind it. And now
Mhm.
I'm so excited and thrilled to do it. I'm so excited to share because they're each so different and they have such a different mood and vibe. And I'm just so excited to send them out in the world.
I love that. And since it's the holiday season, we're asking everybody, what is your favorite holiday movie?
Holiday movie, or there you say holiday song. Hmm.
That's coming later.
Oh, okay, okay. I don't know. My boyfriend and I love when we watch movies and we see some movies that are like secret holiday movies, like Jumanji, for example. At the end, there's a whole Christmas element. So it's like I like finding the weird outliers that you're like, oh, that's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I'm, I don't know.
Jumanji's a good one.
Jumanji.
And do you have a favorite holiday tradition that you do with your family?
Yes. On Christmas Eve, we all get really like fancy dressed up for dinner at our house. And then we all get to open one present on Christmas Eve, which is matching PJs for everybody that my mom always finds. So I'm really excited. And just to like spend time with my family, my whole extended big,
I love that. And everybody gets a pair of PJs,
yep.
the same exact one.
One year recently, it was all Grinch onesies. So it's like, we all, my
Do you
mom,
have a favorite?
them. The Grinch onesies were a fave.
Okay.
They were really
Yeah,
up there.
that would be a fave for sure. And then lastly, what is the holiday song that has to be on your playlist?
Okay, there's three. The Drifters, White Christmas, top always, followed by Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, and then Eartha Kitt's Santa Baby, because damn.
Do you have a specific version of Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree or just any? Love that.
She's just, love that Christmas energy.
Mm-hmm. Two genres coming together. Love it.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for talking to
Of
me.
course. Thank you so
And
much for your questions. It was really cool getting to talk to you.
yeah, seriously. I loved the song and the music video. I mean, it was more of like a piece of art is what I just came to mind,
Thank you.
which you don't really see nowadays. They're just like, I love it. And I'm
Well,
excited for the album.
with more music videos to just show like different like aspects of my aesthetic, I want to do one that's like kind of spooky and dark because I love true crime and horror, and so I'm already over here with the gears turning for the next video.
That's what makes the best ones is when you just put yourself out there. Like, I mean, if you're invested in it, then it's going to be great.
Yeah, and like I love creating visual art as well. So it's like a really fun process for me to try and match up the imagery with the energy of the song.
Hmm. I love that. And I'm excited for the album.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And do you have anything lastly that you would like to say to all your fans?
I have a very special thing coming. It's going to be only available through Bandcamp, which is the vinyl that we have that I'm so excited about. And if people get that, they'll be able to get the full album, a little bit before everybody else. So I'm gonna keep everyone really posted about that and keep everyone informed. But keep a lookout.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, inside scoop right there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.